Alive in 3, 2.
Hello, Unique family. My name is Derek Maxfield. I'm originally from a city called Meridian, Idaho. I don't think ever during my childhood did I ever feel like I was destined to do anything special, and certainly not to the degree that's happened with Unique.
I actually spent most of my life feeling like a nobody from nowhere. Because I came from a small community, I had to take a really good look at my life and do a lot of soul searching to figure out what I can offer and what I do have to contribute.
I met Shalane at church, of all places. She really allowed me to spread my wings and didn't hold me back. And I fell in love with her and with that. 3 months later, we were engaged. We went to stay with my parents for the summer. And that's when all of my health challenges started, and I found out that I had leukemia. It was just 5.5 months after we got married.
It kind of gives you a perspective of how fragile life really is and how instantly it can be changed.
After only my first round of chemotherapy, there came a patient onto the floor, and I stopped by and I met Greg Johnston. He was a cowboy from Vernal, Utah. We formed a bond really quickly because I was his source of knowledge to know what he was about to go through.
We both like citrus also, so. And Mentos.
And Mentos.
But he reacted to the treatments in a completely different way than I did. I started to accept that he wasn't going to make it. He would ask about my faith and what I wanted to do with my life after I was out of the hospital. The last time that I ever saw him, he came back to the hospital for my first checkup. And Greg was back in the ICU. I went into the ICU and I knelt down by his bed. And so I grabbed his hand and I said, Greg, I want you to make it back up to the floor one more time. And he squeezed it back and he said, Derek, it's okay. But he asked me to live for us both and to do something great with my life. I accepted it that day, but I had no idea how I would do that. He passed away soon after that. The thought of needing and wanting to do something great with my life, I think I had convinced myself that I had a long life ahead of me. It just wasn't possible for me right then. I got a job with a company here in Utah. They had a little basketball team, and we would go play every day for our lunch break. I came down, cracked skulls with the guy who I was guarding at the time, and we drove, of all places, to the same hospital where I had had all my treatments just a few years prior. I was in surgery for 5.5 hours. For the reasons that are only known to God, they put me in room 522, which was Greg's room. And I wasn't conscious enough or coherent enough to really know why I was there, but I knew I was back. And in that moment, that's the moment that really changed my life forever. Because I had a clear message to me, and it was exactly, Derek, you're right back in the same place. The same place, and you're using the same excuses. That moment changed my life. I was driven to no longer use excuses and to no longer think of the need to do something great as so far in the future. I started to change things. I got up at 4:45 in the morning and I worked on a software business that I've been thinking about. I did that for 1.5 years. And then in the beginning of 2004, I started my own business. And that was the business that I sold in 2010. And I was thinking about what I wanted to do with my life. And I was driving home one day and I was talking to Shalane about someone who had been sexually abused. And it always troubled me and bothered me that a woman would take guilt on herself for what someone else had done. And I said, Shalane, that's not fair. Somebody should do something about that. And I knew that somebody was me, and that something was to start another company that could be successful enough to fund that cause.
I totally felt the same frustration in her behalf that he did, and the shame and the guilt that affects their life so negatively is such an injustice.
A very detailed thought came into my mind, and it was a retreat that was nestled in the mountains, and a place for these women to begin a healing process. That clarity I knew could only come from God, because it had come just that quickly, and it came in an instant. And I started to work on those plans right away.
I don't think that we could have even imagined what needed to be done. We were just focused on what we could do, and it has become more than we ever imagined it could be.
We're trying to reach all of them through a message of hope, and a message that this is not your fault, and to have a chance for them to reclaim the hope that was lost and perhaps taken from them.
We've had approximately 1,800 women come through the retreat. I see faces every time I hear the number. It's Sarah, and it's Heather, and it's Heidi, and it's Amanda. It's not just numbers for me, it's people.
I think when you give someone hope, they can then become the steward of their own healing. But that's the point, is that we simply open the door, help them feel that there is hope. And that's the goal of the retreat. And I think that we are accomplishing that. I'm grateful for all the people that drive YOUNIQUE and all the presenters out there, because it is through them that we really accomplish the means by which we can support this cause.
I think we're getting there, and I think that the army that we do have now is such a tremendous base. They are such a force for good.
I absolutely feel like the things that have happened over the past few years with the YOUNIQUE Foundation have been the fulfillment of my promise to Greg. I could die now and see him and feel like I kept that promise.